Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. And now to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem. Representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, Arlette.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Happy Devils Sunday! We got off to another late start. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast, season 1, episode. Are we at 33 yet? I think we're at 33. Episode 33.
It might be.
The topic today is, would you bet on or against the New Jersey Devils? That's the topic of today. But before we get to our podcast, Beer Baron, I'll shift this over to you. We had some terrible tragedies this week, Beer Baron. I just want to turn that over to you before we start.
Yeah, I hate to start out the podcast like this. I hate to talk about tragedy in general, but our thoughts and prayers go out to all the families in Paramus, all the families down in Texas as well. Terrible news about a school shooting in Texas, and I don't want to get into a debate about guns and gun control. We'll leave that to a political podcast, but it gets to a point where enough is enough. And Short Sky and I both, this hits home for us in our chosen profession, and the one in Paramus definitely hits home. My nephew Jack that was his class trip. Fortunately, he's okay, but it's just terrible news, and we're just we're thinking about everybody out there. So.
Well said.
Yeah, no,
well said.
Well said. I echo everything, and unfortunately, you seem to be our spokesperson when this happens, and it's happening way too often. But yeah, no, I definitely echo all that exactly as you said it.
It's eerie because I travel Route 80 a lot, and I'm from the area in Mount Olive, and I actually drove through there around 8:40 p.m. that Thursday night. I mean, the amount of media coverage, there were just vans all over the place, and just driving by was a little eerie. And our thoughts and prayers to the people of Paramus, with that bus accident. Is quite a tragedy, and it just, tells you how short life is. But our thoughts and prayers are with you guys, and it was definitely a little bit, it was definitely a little bit, sad and kind of shaken by it. But anyway, so getting to our podcast, Vegas Golden Knights going to the Stanley Cup Finals. And speaking of Vegas, the sports gamble and the sports gambling world got some interesting news with the Supreme Court ruling, which basically, I guess, they overruled an old lower court ruling, and which paves the way for legalized sports betting. To I guess states' rights is in play. I know you're a history buff, Shorts guy. Is that exactly what happened?
Yeah, it's something like that. I'm gonna be honest. I tried reading a little bit about it this week, but I got sidetracked, so I didn't get all the details. But it was an effort spearheaded by our former governor Chris Christie to try to get legalized sports gambling here in the state, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And without knowing all the details, I know that they ruled in favor of the state of New Jersey, which would open up sports gambling for, I believe, the entire country. And now it's going to come down to the individual states to make those laws regarding that. And they've done estimates, and I don't even want to say the dollar amount because I'll probably way wrong, but it's a ton of money that
it is.
That is gambled illegally. So, obviously they're going to try to the state's going to try to jump on that train and try to get some of that as revenue money. This actually, thinking about the intricacies of the law at sports gambling, even all those Super Bowl pools that we're all involved in, that we do at work or that we do between friends or at parties, they're all technically illegal as well. And there have been cases where people have had all that money forfeited, and it's gone through all kinds of legal stuff, costing tons of money. So with that being said, this now, not like police were busting down the door of every Super Bowl party, but that I would believe should make all that not to be an issue. And let's face it, we all know somebody that has a bookie, and
everybody.
We all know someone with a bookie, and now all those bookies are. Well, that's the other question. What happens to all those illegal gambling sites and bookies that have been going for so long? They must have, you would assume, either been fearing this day, or looking forward to this day to come out of the shadows and to be legitimized. But I don't think those sites are ever run by the best of individuals.
Never.
Well, let me tell you something. I think there's still a market for those guys because it's tax free. Anytime it's tax free,
that's true.
You got that
and high stakes too. There's also a market for those types of guys because there's going to be people that want to put like super high stakes and don't want to go through the legalized way of doing it because you're going to get taxed out the nose with a lot of these things. Just like if you were gambling down in Atlantic City. Now, this is like, it's a two-sided issue because this is really good and all the things that you were saying are true. Like it's going to be good for the state. It's going to be great for Atlantic City until all the other states start to catch up. There's going to be a lot of other states that are going to try to pass legislation to try to block this ruling, but it's going to be super hard to do considering the fact that it comes from the highest of the highest of the highest of courts.
Yes.
Be honest with you, like I think it's a great thing because of all the different avenues that you could filter that money through. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are saying, and I was listening to ex-Governor Christie the other day, and he was saying that a lot of that money is going to go towards the elderly or elderly care, but it could be siphoned into different areas. It can be siphoned into education, road repair. Road repair would be nice. It's going to be put into a bunch of areas, but I mean, in a way that's really good. And there's people out there that are like, oh, well, this is going to create degenerate gamblers because eventually it's going to go to our phones where we could sit there and watch a hockey game and be like, all right, I'm betting who's going to win this face-off. All right, I'm going to bet who's going to score the first goal. All right, I'm betting, so you're going to be able to like bet and parlay like every single little tiny thing about a game. those people were going to have that problem anyways. And it's all about self-control. Like, it's the same thing with alcohol. It's the same thing with everything else.
You can already sit at home on your laptop and probably your phone as well, and you can gamble already because online gambling is legal in the state. And I haven't seen I also haven't looked up stats, so no one please quote me on this, but I haven't seen an uptick in degenerate gamblers or at least no one I know has lost their house to gambling losses. However, as many people as I know, it's there could be those out there, but like you said, if you have that issue, if you have that addictive personality, you're going to get addicted to something. And if gambling is it, then unfortunately, that's something that you have to have. They have to figure out and realize, just like with alcohol or with drugs or anything, it's the same thing. It's you have to realize that you have that issue and that you have to figure that issue out. And
and I mean that's so true, because it's a disease just like anything else. Like gambling addiction is just as, it's like the same as drug addiction. If you don't think so, we can get into the the scientific facts behind it and the chemicals in your brain that cause different addictions, or the reason why that it would be the same as a drug dependency. Either way, no matter which way you look at it, it's going to happen. It's already going through. And so there's no way that you're going to be able to like stand up on a soapbox and scream about it and make it go away, and just embrace the fact that it's going to be doing something good for the state. Hopefully, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and that's the thing, is you were saying earlier in the podcast, like how much money, and you don't want to put like a number on it. Dude, it's like billions and billions and billions of dollars. I think like the last I heard, it's like, it could be upwards to like $10+ billion a year. And that's insane, like the amount of money. And you think about it, and not, like I said, not to get into like a political side of this podcast, but if our current governor he's legalizing sports betting, he's going to legalize marijuana in the state, that the amount of revenue that's going to come into the state to fix a lot of the problems, that we're not going to have to pay property tax out the nose. Well, hopefully, these are all like hypotheticals.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can only wish.
We can only wish, yeah. But I mean, like, these things that are going to be legalized, hopefully, are here to like help, save the state from the shambles that it's been in. So it's not a bad thing, and a long, skinny, weird thing. And yes, I think David said earlier in a podcast or on our Facebook group, he said, "I wish I would have bet 500 to 1 on Vegas when going to the Cup." Because, man, the Golden Knights, I feel bad for Seattle when they come in the league, because they have, high expectations to live up to.
Well, that's and I've got to look something up. So give me a second. So you guys talk. I'm talking about odds and championship. I need to check something out real quick.
Yeah. Okay. But Sam, think about this. You're the brand new owners of the Seattle, whatever they're going to be, the Seattle Totems, the Seattle Thunderbirds, whatever they end up being. You're watching the Vegas Golden Knights. You're watching what what McPhee has put together, and you're looking at the blueprint of what he did, and you're like, okay, I just follow the same blueprint. There's a problem though. Marc-Andre Fleury is on a mission. This dude is on a different planet right now. Like he is. He's not the front runner for the Conn Smythe. If he's not the front runner for the Conn Smythe, I have no idea who is, because that Winnipeg Jets team. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. That Winnipeg Jets team is no joke, and the fact that I don't know if you watched any of the highlights or any of those games. I watched as much of the playoff hockey as I can. Like I watch, I watch a lot of it, and I think it was the other night. He made a save where he came all the way to his right, made a save, and then dove across the crease and made another save. And it was flashes of brodeur in a day. But yeah, dude, I gotta tell you, he stole the show in the Western Conference. And if he doesn't get the Conn Smythe, it might be a Jaguar thing too. If they lose, I could still see him getting it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, this is what I would do if I was the Seattle Totems or whatever they're going to call them.
It better be the Thunderbird.
You got to. Yeah, actually, I actually have one of their sweatshirts. I think it was a minor league team, Seattle Thunderbirds.
They still are. They're still the. I think they might be the Vancouver affiliate, but they're still out there.
But I mean, this is what I think. All right, if I'm the new GM of the Seattle Totems or Seattle, Super Totems or whatever they're going to call them, the first thing I would do, knowing what Vegas is doing, is say just the generic stuff. We are going to build within. We are going to scout. We are going to draft well, because you're not going to. If you say that you're going to win the cup in the first year, you're basically lying. I mean, this stuff just doesn't happen. What's happening with Vegas now? How often do you get a 3-time Stanley Cup winning goalie that's still in his prime in an expansion draft? That's even unheard of. And then you build from Marc-Andre Fleury out, and that tells you how skilled the league is right now, that these cast-offs are really that good of a player versus, and people forget that the Florida Panthers, what was it, their second season, they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. Was it second season? I forgot when did they start? 94, 95?
They started in like 93, and then 96 they made it to the cup.
Yep.
Yeah, the cup finals, and then they got swept by Patrick Waugh and the Colorado Avalanche. So, if I were the the Seattle GM, I don't know. I mean, he's got a tough shoes a tough start, knowing that Vegas is in the Cup Finals now.
It all starts with goaltending, because who is the Panthers goalie? John Van Beesbrook, an awesome goaltender. Who is Vegas's goalie? Mark Fall starts with goaltending. I will champion goaltending till my last days, and you both know that, and our listeners probably know that by now as well. So it all starts with goaltending. So Seattle's first pick has to take a look at all the goaltenders available, and you know that they're already scouting right now. You know that they're looking at who is on contract, who will be out of contract by then, and it all starts with goaltending. You cannot win anything without a good, solid goaltender, because look at Pittsburgh this year. Matt Murray, who has done well in the past, all of a sudden
overrated.
Oh yeah, all of a sudden is not doing so hot, and he's not that stalwart goaltender that they were hoping and assuming he would be, which is why they let Fleury go. So everything starts with goaltending.
I agree 100%. And our buddy Bernie just jumped on to the Facebook group, and he said, the Golden Knights, do you think they will continue their Cinderella season and win the cup? You know what? I thought Winnipeg was going to be the biggest test, and they just walked through Winnipeg. So whatever team comes out of the East, it's going to be a really, really hard to beat the Vegas Golden Knights, and I would not be surprised to see them win in 5 or 6 games in the Stanley Cup Finals.
I agree.
To be honest with you too, like what's crazy is like you said, you start with the goaltending and you look out, and they're probably already scouting. And Seattle's, I don't know when they're specifically going to be joining the league. I want to say 2020, but I could be wrong about that. But whenever they come into the league, you have to start looking like who's going to be available. Yeah. Vegas got so lucky when the way that Fleury fell into their lap. Like that was the luckiest situation that they could have, could have ever happened to that team, because essentially Pittsburgh was looking at their situation. They're like, well, Fleury has a few injury problems and this, that, and the other thing, and Murray's younger and he's up and coming and the heir apparent and blah blah blah. Let us not forget that Fleury carried that team through those seasons that Murray stepped in later in the playoffs and ended up winning the cup. And it wasn't like he was lights out. He was good, but he also has a star-studded team in front of him. Yeah,
he was good for the I don't want to call the playoffs a short burst, because it's a grind, and you do have to get 16 wins. However, it's not a full 82 game season followed by an additional, at the least 16 if you sweep every single series, and at the most 28 if you go game 7 in every single series. Yeah. So he's Matt Murray was good when he needed to be, but now that he's had a full season under his belt, it's not like he was the greatest in the league either. Agreed. Fleury, but you also need to consider the fact that a change of scenery for somebody is also a very much a positive thing. Sometimes Fleury seemed his time in Pittsburgh seemed to be up. He had to change the scenery. He got a new team in front of him. He was, the new face of the franchise, which he was one of the faces of the franchise in Pittsburgh, but not the face because we all know who that is. And
Evgeny Malkin, right?
Yeah, sure. Him.
Phil Kessel.
Yeah, Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel is the face of the
Armour Hot Dogs and the
of the bar crowd in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
he will drink you under the table and then go play a game. No, but but Fleury became the face of the franchise, and there is also a lot to be said about. And I was explaining this to a friend of mine on Friday who is not really into hockey. Actually, his exposure to hockey is very, very limited because he's from Argentina, and I explained to him that Vegas was essentially a team made up of guys who were put on a "we do not want you" list. So you got to think that a ton of that motivation has to come from the, oh, you didn't want us? Well, here, let me stick it to you and the rest of everyone else who didn't want the rest of my guys here. So that's just for team bonding in itself. Here you have a team of, supposed misfits that are saying, hey, no one liked us. No one wanted us. So let's do something good and stick up for each other and have each other's back because of it.
Yeah.
So there's
100%.
There's a lot to be said about that motivation too.
Yeah. And you got to look at like the NHL's approach about this. They got to be ecstatic how this was such a huge leap of faith to start a team in Vegas. And there was a lot of people that were very against them, even expanding into Vegas because of the gambling aspect, because of, being another team out in the desert in a non-traditional hockey, area. And to be honest, we've talked about it before. Like you have to give 100% credit to, from the front office all the way down, that team was put together correctly. It was it was wired correctly from everything from the the way the stadium was built to the way that they have the fan interaction to the way they start their games. Like the players, like everything about the Golden Knights, like just came together in this perfect storm of like just everything just kind of fell into place. Like I said before, I feel bad for like whatever the team that's going to be in Seattle, because you think like you would hope that they could fall into the same situation that Vegas did, but it's very unlikely. And you're probably going to see a team that's going to go into Seattle that's going to be competitive, like Minnesota, exactly competitive, where they're like, hey, they're making some noise, but they can't seem to get out of their own way.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I have to say this, it's going forward, and I think they did it right this time, but going forward, they're going to have to make sure in Vegas that anyone that they draft, anyone that they bring in, has got to be a person of really good character, knowing the temptations that are in Vegas, which I was talking to someone who's a Raiders fan.
Which James Neal, I don't know about that.
But there's, for example,
video clip of him last year.
The Raiders are going there, and it's not a secret that the NFL has had some personality issues with players getting in trouble, trouble for all kinds of things. I think that the Raiders are going to have the bigger issue going into Vegas because of the NFL's character track record isn't all that great. Hockey is much better than many of the other pro sports. At least the top four in having players who aren't really in the spotlight. And that's going forward. They're going to just have to make sure that they continue to find those players that are not going to get tempted. And I also think that all the teams that are visiting there are
oh my god,
have been doing well with. Well, yeah, I mean they've probably given the guys a little bit of a leash, not a super short leash, but just a leash in general, saying, hey, listen, we know there's a lot here. Yeah, but don't be stupid. And I'm sure they probably get similar, not as bad, but probably similar things going into places like New York. New York you can be out until 4 a.m. Partying. Theo Fleury, and yeah, we've all been there. Again, they have to watch out, but it's also not like there isn't gambling in other cities that these guys go to play either. So it's I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know what? That's like the night
in a roundabout way. It just comes down to character.
I mean, the nightlife is in every city. Even if you go to Columbus and you're playing in the Columbus Blue Jackets, like you're gonna find something to do.
I've been to Columbus. Nightlife is lacking in Columbus. Trust me.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they have like specific areas. They're like, you guys want to go play poker in some guy's basement for an hour? Like something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, pretty much like anywhere you go as a professional athlete, temptation is all around you. It's just like you're in this city that is built off of temptation, and built. It's basically it's like put out there like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So any kind of debauchery I can get myself into. But I mean, like honestly, you bring up a good point, because you have to, as a team owner, like you bring in the guys and you sit them all down and you're like, don't be stupid. Like you see where we are. We're in Wonderland. Just don't go out there and make a fool of yourself. Like behave and you'll be fine. Like you can enjoy all the sights and sounds of the city. Just don't be stupid. And I mean, you can imagine what kind of crazy parade they're gonna have if they win the cup. You
down
know what
the middle of the
like
strip,
tigers walking down the middle of this. Elephants, guys in small hats throwing poodles at people or some crap.
Yeah,
that's what they do in Vegas, right?
Yeah, sure. If they can pull it off, it's going to be a huge party in Vegas. I just hope that fan base stays and that they're able to continue to have that kind of support going forward. Because as much as I would love to see our building filled every single night, and it would be awesome but if they got to keep selling that building out. But they're also lucky because the Knights are coming into a situation where there is no other team. Yeah. They currently have the only other sports team that I know they used to have an IHL team.
They have a college team. That's pretty much.
They have a college team. They have a college team. They have the Mets have a farm team out there.
Yep.
In Vegas.
Yep.
I believe the Las Vegas. I want to say they were called the Las Vegas Aces. May have been an IHL team that was out in that area. And
no, Sam.
No, you're not allowed to talk, Sam. But either way, they're coming into a market with no other team, and that's now the city has something that it can support aside from gambling.
Yeah, and by the way, when they're playing Winnipeg, and Winnipeg had that awesome whiteout, and which by the way takes a lot of coordination, because the Devils can never really truly do a full red out, because every time they did or they tried, a little less, maybe a quarter of the people would be walking around with the white jerseys on, or walking around with a Rangers jersey or something like that, and you're like,
my favorite, the Rock Your Red towel that was white.
Yes,
Rock Your Red on white. Rock Your Red on white. That I looked at that. I got that when I walked in the building. I'm like, whoa, hold on, wait. Rock Your Red, but it's a white towel. Explain this genius idea to me, because I'm missing something.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the small things like that. Winnipeg did it. If I don't know, because it would have been funny, because if Vegas did a blackout to kind of be the anti-Winnipeg whiteout, I don't know if you have a strong enough fan base to pull that off yet, but that would have been pretty wild to see.
Yeah, and the Red Bulls actually tried to do a complete. I don't want to call it a red out, but just have everyone wear red to the game against New York City a couple weeks ago. They actually had people in there the night before working, and they put red T-shirts on. Out of the 25,000 plus seats, on at least 24,000 of them, because they didn't put them in the visiting away section, because those, I will refrain from saying anything about them because it's a family show, but because they're just not, they're just going to go to waste in that section. And I guess it was okay, but it can be done. You just gotta you got to pull it off, and you got to get everyone to also comply to it as well.
And it's got to be, there's got to be more of a push about it, because I remember, in 2012 they did a lot of that like whole red out thing, and the building was red, especially against the Rangers in that series. It was pretty red. It was just like like there was just sporadic people. You see somebody walk by in a white jersey, and you're like, you don't have a red one? Like you don't have like, come on, you don't have a dozen like we do, like the lunatics we are,
or just a red T-shirt. Just a red T-shirt will work.
Yeah, or maybe instead of giving out the towels, like give out a T-shirt. It's the price difference isn't going to be that much different.
No, it's really not. I can tell you that from experience. It's really not. It's marginal to say the least. Maybe the price difference would be off by possibly $1,
something like that. And
and
so David on Facebook Live, he says, the Devils should do a blackout next year during the playoffs. And I agree. I'm telling you, dude, I have a very strong feeling that Shiro is going to make some moves this offseason. I think he's going to bring in Van Riemsdyk. I think he's going to bring in Carlson. A lot of people, I know we touch on this every week for the last like 3-4 weeks, but
because we have nothing else to talk about.
Well, it was that, and it's just like that anticipation.
Only have a wish list until July 1st.
July 1st is it, and it feels like it's an eon away. But I mean,
I know it'll be here before you know it. You and I will have all the time in the world to pay more attention to this.
I know. And then, we have the draft first, and then who knows what they're going to do in the draft, because they're drafting, 17th overall. So, they could try to move that pick. They could try to, who knows? All I know is every year something happens, and Shiro finds a way to surprise us. Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, the biggest theft in the entire NHL that has ever happened.
Oh yeah, only hey, you know what? In typical Devils fashion, that was the biggest news of the day for like 2 hours.
Oh, and then it got overshadowed by Shea Weber and PK Subban getting flipped.
Yeah. In typical Devils fashion, we are the talk of the league for 2 hours. And then that other trade came off later in the afternoon and was like, well, wait a minute. Wait, what happened to the Devils? Oh, no, there we are. We're gone again. Bye.
They're like, oh my God, Taylor Hall is going to the Devils. And then all of a sudden it was like, but wait a second.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, though, like every year something big happens. There's always, since Shiro's gotten here, even, this past year, Marcus Johansson, and, a couple years ago, Kyle Palmieri. So every year he's improving the team and bringing in different players. And so I'm excited to see what's going to happen, because he even openly says, I don't like the end of the year conference that he had. He goes, yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen. I didn't know I was going to get Taylor Hall when I was sitting here, a couple of years ago during this time. He goes, things just evolve and things happen. But that means he's also going out and trying to find things. He's not just sitting back and saying, all right, I like the team. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, he can't even sit back and say I like the team, because we flopped in the playoffs. We made it, but we flopped. I was actually talking, I was riding a subway yesterday coming back from the Brooklyn Half Marathon, and a buddy that I ran the race with is an Islander fan. And we're talking, he's like, so you guys going to take Tavares from us? And I was like, well, maybe. We've been talking about that on the podcast.
Maybe we'll have wagers on that.
Hey, we can bet that kind of stuff legally.
It is legal. You can legally do that now.
Hey, $5 says he says he.
Oh,
I don't know.
This is what I want to mention. But mentioned before, we had mentioned that someone wished they would have put, some money on Vegas at 500 to 1. 2 years ago, the Leicester City in the Premier League had odds at 5,000 to 1 to win the Premier League. The season before, they had just barely survived, and a couple people put money on them to win, and all the betting houses in England lost millions, and they refused to give anyone those odds ever again, just in the off chance. Yeah, and I was actually just double checking what I was. Just my facts real quick. A couple other 5,000 to 1 odds that have been there in the past. The Timberwolves in the NBA had 5,001 odds to win the title, and they missed the playoffs by 14 games. In 2016, a 16-year-old had 5,001 odds to win the Masters, and he came in dead last. Cal State Bakerfield was 5,001 to win the NCAA tournament, and they lost in the first round. And interestingly enough, there were 5,000 to 1 odds that Elvis Presley would be found alive, and 5,000 to 1 odds that President Barack Obama would play cricket for England. None of which happened. It's very odd.
Thing. There's a name that I want to float out there that hasn't really been talked about, and we talked about it briefly at the very end of the season before the playoffs started. Erik Karlsson out of Ottawa. Now, Erik Karlsson out of Ottawa, the last game that he played in Ottawa, skated over to the net and picked out the puck out of the net after they lost the game. It wasn't like he scored a game-winning goal, came over and picked up the puck. A lot of people speculating that he is gone, he's done in Ottawa. You would probably still, because he has 1 year left in Ottawa, you would probably have to pay a king's ransom to get him out, because I doubt they're stupid enough to just let him walk away for, a high prospect and a pick. What would you be willing to part with to get Erik Karlsson on your team? What would you part with to get him on the Devils? And I'll propose that question to our friends on Facebook Live too. What would you give up to get Erik Karlsson? Because it will probably take it will take a lot. It will probably take our first round this year, first round next year, Mikey McLeod.
I give it 5,000. I give it 5,000 to 1 odds that the New Jersey Devils get. But then again, I want to give it 5,000 to 1 odds. Yeah, wow, that's a good question. But but I mean, if you think about it, go back to the topic, like all this talk that we're trade talks, getting players and free agencies, like. You can pretty much bet on anything. Just like bet. Even our predictions that we do for Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals, playoffs, whatever. You can literally bet on anything. And and I'm thinking to myself, I think betting for me is going to ruin the sport if I start getting into gambling. Like I may leverage my season ticket money, cancel my season tickets, take that pile of $4,000 and start making stupid wagers, try to make some money so I can get premium tickets with my earnings, but probably knowing my luck, I probably lose all my money by November, but in terms of players, I think it's going to ruin the game. It's going to ruin the experience, and just wait. What Pete Rose did that got him a lifetime ban of baseball will soon be legal.
Legal. No, it won't be. It won't be, because what you're forgetting is Pete Rose bet on baseball while he was still wearing a uniform and being an active member of a team. You can't bet while you're an active player, manager, coach, or associated with any. You can't. Is that
by law or is that by league rules?
No, league rules, but the league rule, it didn't matter. Like by law, he wasn't breaking any laws because he was betting through Vegas. Like supposedly, I'll say supposedly, he was putting his wagers through Vegas. So Pete Rose was betting legally, but because he was still a part of the MLB and an active, I don't know if he was an active player at the time or if it started when he was a player and it went over to when he was a player manager and whatever. But Hey, my wife's listening. Hi, Nick. It started out like that, and then that's how he got caught. He got caught while he was an active person in the MLB, and so that is going to be a stipulation to prevent players from throwing games. If you remember the great movie Blue Chip, which is a fantastic movie starring Shaquille O'Neal, and if you about shaving points in college basketball. Dude, it's a fantastic movie.
What about referees? I think NHL referees will have more pressure on them.
Okay.
The video replay, they're going to have more pressure on them. I don't know. I mean, I'm all for having a little fun and all that, but for me, I don't know. It changes my mindset.
In the NBA a couple of years ago, there was the Donahue guy, right, who got caught.
Yep.
Who got caught placing wagers and basically fixing games in the NBA. And it was a huge scandal, and the NBA was all, everybody was up in arms, and the NBA was like in deep water, which they skated through. Whoops, they skated through and nothing happened. But my point being is you have to find a way to essentially like just weed through people, and there's going to be checks and balances for everything, right? There's going to be checks and balances. If you get caught, it has to be a severe penalty. It can't just be like, oh, it's a 40-game ban, it's a 50-game ban. It has to be immediate suspension or expulsion from the game. You have to have these rules in place, because if you don't, then you might have somebody that's like, hey, well, I got like $300,000 on this game tonight, and if I don't play defense, they're sure going to score some goals and stuff like that. So we'll lose, and I'll cover my spread. Like, you have to have checks and balances.
Well, obviously, but I don't know. I mean, can you imagine last Super Bowl if Atlantic City actually had legalized sports betting? All those Eagle fans like, I'm going to bet for my team. I mean, it would have been crazy. It would have been absolutely nuts. And you know what? For me, if I lose money betting sports, I get really angry. It goes to a whole new level. Like I get pissed when I lose in fantasy football, for what, $1,000.
I got a belt to prove that I'm a fantasy football champion, and nothing is better than that. But listen, I got to go back to something that we were just talking about, just because our buddy Brian Finkel over on our Facebook group has brought up a great article talking about Erik Karlsson and the fact that Bobby Ryan, with his terrible contract, would have to probably be thrown in, who is another Jersey guy. There are some things that are floating around out there that are possibilities. The Devils have a good amount of cap space to work with. A lot of these big name free agents, I know Arizona has a ton of cap space. I know there's a lot of teams that could afford to get some of these guys, but I just feel like, it's all about are you going to mortgage the future to pay for the present? So what are you willing to give up to get some of these players? What are you willing to give up to bring Karlsson in? And I'll send a wave back to you, Brian. Good to see you, buddy.
Now that there's legalized sports gambling, this is going to make free agent signing day a little bit more fun. You'll be able to gamble on who's going where. Odds will come out on, think about it, because they have odds. I listen to a lot of talk radio from England for soccer, and they have odds on everything. They even had odds on what the most recent royal baby was going to be named, and if it was, all of that. You can gamble on anything.
Crazy.
Think about this though. July 1st hits, Karlsson, for example, let's say his odds coming to New Jersey are like 30-1. You'll be able to gamble on that.
Which, hey, I mean, I'll
throw
a 10 spot on that.
Yeah, right.
David says 3-1. David says 3-1 odds that Tavares comes to the Devils, dude. If those are the real odds that he comes to the Devils, I'd be more than happy to take that bet.
It's going to make things a lot more interesting, and I'm wondering with the legalization of sports gambling. So as of right now, you have to know someone who knows someone to get a bookie, and it's run by not the greatest of individuals. Now that it's legalized, does that take the threat from, let's say, an organized crime syndicate to push people to fix games, or does that get worse? Does that get better, or does that get worse now that it's legalized?
All right, so I'll bring up a good point, because that is a very valid point, and there's in tennis, there was a lot of fixing. There was a lot of shaving points. There was a lot of people that were not really savory characters in the world of tennis, and a lot of people were getting caught, basically fixing matches. There was a thing, talking about betting sports in England. There was a thing that was put out that once betting was legalized in England, that a lot of these things were weeded out. A lot of the unsavory characters that are, causing people to, cheat and do these things are starting to get weeded out. And the reason why is because they look at betting trends. So if you're looking at all the betting trends and you're legally allowed to look at like all the different trends, and that basically in layman's terms is like, if the Devils are playing the Rangers and the Devils are a 5-1 odd, and they're, everybody's all excited about it, and they start putting their money down, and all of a sudden those odds flip in a different way, there's a trend that happens, and that will trigger a red light or a red flag, and they'll say, well, why is all of a sudden everybody starting to bet on the Rangers? Like, what is going on? And you would look at certain things. Now, in team sports, it's a hell of a lot harder to throw games. The basketball, it's easier. But, I mean, there's checks and balances that kind of keep all this stuff into place. So legalized betting actually gets rid of a lot of that unsavory crap.
Because you had that scandal. What was that? Boston College that had that game fixing scandal with a couple of the guys in the team that was run by the crime syndicates out of Boston, where they were visiting people, and I would hope that would not go away, I would hope that would go away, or the possibility of having a syndicate go after someone. A lot of the players that those syndicates are going to target as well are the players that, maybe not. Obviously, they're not going to go for the star player. They're going to go for the guy that could use the extra money, and to have them affect the game in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Alexander, I would never bet against the Devils either. I would never bet against. You never bet against your team that you love. I mean, that's the hardest thing to do, to sit there and root against them. It's one of the things I hate about fantasy football, is because you'll have a player from a team you hate, and then they're playing the team you love, and you're like, they score a touchdown, and you jump up and you cheer, and you're like, oh, yes, damn it. At the same time, it's like a defeating purpose. But yeah, and it's crazy to think about what kind of things could open up. But it's like I said, there's so many things that are going to be put into place, and all these leagues can only benefit from legalized gambling, in the sense that they should be able to get a cut of it. I don't know how they're going to be able to, because essentially Vegas doesn't pay them anything. So
here's my issue with a little bit with sports gambling, and then I've got something about the individual teams themselves. So I always get a little bothered when, because again, going back to soccer, in the Premier League, for example, they will have teams that have shirt sponsors of gambling sites, or the games will be sponsored by gambling websites and stuff like that. I always get a little wary when you get gambling sites going into sponsorship deals with teams, because that almost seems like they're getting in bed with each other. And that, not that there's ever been anything organized to come out and say that anything has happened or whatnot, but just that relationship alone always, it never sits right with me when I see that.
Yeah, it's like having
sponsorship by the gambling house that also you can gamble on that specific match or game at the same time.
It's like having a NASCAR. It's like having a NASCAR that's sponsored by like Budweiser, because you think about it, are they promoting drinking and driving?
Yeah, right. Or Coors Light.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember partypoker.com?
Yeah.
The Devils were sponsored by partypoker.com. I mean, I guess that was legalized online betting, not sports
betting,
betting,
about it,
just
poker. The Devils are sponsored by NJ Lottery.
Yeah,
yep.
Technically, that's still gambling.
You're correct. However, winning the lottery or the lottery in general has no bearing on. You don't benefit if the Devils win or lose. I mean, you benefit if they pick your row, which they tend to give the lottery tickets to people who probably don't need them. You benefit if they pick your row to give you free tickets. But Well, I just got in contact with a friend of mine and asked her because she's gone to games in England, soccer matches, and a lot of the stadiums have specific stands within the stadium that you can gamble on that specific game you're at or other games around the league.
Yeah,
while you're there,
you're going to see that.
And
that's going to start happening in
that might be where that might be where the Devils will could benefit if they're going to bring that money in gambling wise. Have a little sports bet, there. And, you have, I could assume that you could probably have a bar in it. So you put a little sports bet bar in your arena and you'll attract more revenue that way as well. And then maybe have that open during non-game days and just go, watch sports and gamble on whatever.
Which is essentially like you could go to a horse track, and even if there's no races going on, you could still gamble.
Simulcast,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
or OTP.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, how are the leagues going to get their cut?" And that's probably going to be one of the reasons, or one of the ways that they're going to get their cut is they're going to have a specific area that's set up for on-site gambling. But then there's so many questions that go along with that, because then it's like, well, if you're trying to promote a family-friendly environment, how are you going to promote gambling on site? And then my question to you would be like, well, if you're promoting a family fun event, then why are you serving alcohol at it? So it's like you can't have one and not the other. You know what I mean? So like, what does it matter if you do have a little section that's like 21 and over that you can't go in and wager a few bucks, that the team can take 1% off at the top, or have a renter's fee for that little section where they're making their kickback. Like, it's all
like
win-win.
The Gold Bar. The Gold Bar, for example, could be the spot in the arena where you can go get a beer and throw a couple bucks down on that game, or after the Devils game, go to the Gold Bar, throw a couple bucks down on a West Coast game, and then stay and watch the West Coast game until that ends. It could be a revenue. An avenue for revenue where you're keeping people, drinking your venue and watching more sports.
It's a win. In my opinion, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah. I've got zero issue with it. I just, you got to make sure I have zero issue with it as long as you make sure that there are procedures in place for players that are current leagues. For example, I also think that they said that we're not going to be able to gamble on like Rutgers football. So that's already out the door. Which makes
a lot of sense. Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Make sure there are procedures in place for employees of all the sports teams.
Wait. You can't bet on Rutgers football?
Not within New Jersey, no.
But you can't. That's the one thing is because it's. So one of the rules that New Jersey put into place is that you cannot bet on college sports or college teams that are from New Jersey, which to me, it makes a lot of sense, because then you're trying to keep, so you can keep the integrity of all the games. It doesn't matter, but you're going to try to keep the integrity of the game and the student and the college foundation or whatever the hell it is. Hey, Douglas Walker, welcome back.
Even though the NCAA
to bet on the Devils in New Jersey, you'd have to go to New York. No, that's not true. From what I understand, is professional sports, it doesn't matter. Professional sports, you can still bet on the Devils, or you could still bet on the Giants and the Jets. And living in New Jersey, it's college teams that you cannot bet on.
Well, my guess for the Meadowlands is they'll just shift all that to the racetrack. So you're probably going to have to go to the racetrack to do that before or after a Giants game or a Jets game.
Maybe they'll turn Xanadu into a giant casino.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, they get stuck over there. See, they were trying to make it into like downhill skiing and all sorts of crazy.
Well,
crap.
No. They were trying to bring regular casino gambling to the racetrack in the Meadowlands. That's what they were trying to do.
Yeah. But I mean, the problem with the Meadowlands is like it's a nightmare to get in and out of there. So that's like one of the ultimate downsides of that place.
Well, that's why we always drank in the parking lot for 2 hours after every game. Because by the time the parking lot cleared, we just, by the time we were done drinking, we just left. And if you got there before 5, you didn't have to pay to park. That was also great. You always tried to get there before 5 o'clock so you didn't have to pay for parking.
Exactly.
Because that's when all the parking people came on the job, 5 p.m. It was always a mad dash to get down there and pick up beer on the way. It's like, got to get there before 5. Got to get there before 5. Got to avoid paying $10.
Have a great night, Alexander.
Yes, Alexander, have a good night, man.
Yeah, dude, I have so many fond memories of going there, but I mean, I was young enough where I wasn't driving in there a lot, and then I was young enough where when I was driving in there, it was like still exciting to drive, and it wasn't like, oh my god, I'm in traffic. I'm like, I'm still behind a wheel. So I'm like 35 now, so I mean, it was like an adventure, when you turn 18 and you're like driving around that area. But I absolutely love going to the Rock and being able to jump on the train and pregame on a train and then like nap on a train afterwards and hopefully wake up when your spot hits. But it's a nice, I love the Rock.
When you live up here in the mountains, you don't have that option. It's drive or don't go.
Yeah,
those are my two options.
Yeah, well,
or drive to the train and then sit on the train for a lot longer than the drive.
Yeah.
Only to sit on the train for a lot longer than the drive to go back to your car to drive home from that point. It makes no sense for me. I have to drive. I have no option. Yes, Douglas, road sodas is correct unless you're the driver. Then you can't. Yeah. That's a no-go. I like that comment anyway.
But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future because you understand like this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? Like this is just opening up Pandora's box of what is going to be possible in this state, and not just this state, but in 5 years it's going to be legal in every state except for like maybe one weird ass state that's going to be like, nah, man, like we're totally against it, and you're going to look at them and be like, come on, Montana, like. You got fishing and hunting, and what else do you got up there? Like a couple of colleges, you can get out of your way.
Utah.
Okay. Yeah,
Utah probably would not allow it. But then again, you know what? Here we are talking about, it'll be great when it's regulated, but can't always count on the government to get it right either. So I'm hoping whoever's putting all these programs together actually can get it right.
Oh, jeez.
I know.
Who knows? This podcast could be broadcasting from the Meadowlands racetrack. Buddy talks for this podcast.
If we could get a sponsor to sponsor us over at the Meadowlands racetrack and do a live event over there, I would totally be down. I'll get my trifectas ready. Start getting.
Have you ever hit a trifecta? Have you ever hit a trifecta?
I'll tell you a very quick story. I came very close to hitting a trifecta that would have paid a lot of money. And it was like the first time I ever went to a harness race. And it was crazy. I was really young. I was like 21, 22, somewhere around there. So we're betting all these horses. And there was a horse that had 72-1 odds. And I walked over to my buddy and we were all drinking. And I said, oh my God, I bet, we should bet on this horse. We should bet on this horse. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So we go up to the window, we bet. He puts down money, I put down money. Keep in mind I was drunk. So the horse goes off, the race goes off, the horse pulls out and is like destroying everybody. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. I'm like going nuts. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, we're gonna win a whole bunch of money. Horse comes in, my buddy goes up to the window first, and the horse won. My buddy goes over, gets like a boatload of cash. I forget how much he put down, but he was drunk too. So I think he put $100 down. So he gets a nice little payday. I walk up to the window and they gave me $72. Or no, they gave me $10. That's what I bet. I bet $10 and they gave me $10 back. Like, what the hell is this? And I forget how the guy said it, but he basically told me like I put the wrong bet down. And then I wasn't paying attention. Short of the story is like the one horse that I ever hit on that was like a huge odds. I didn't even win. So it sucked.
I hit a trifecta once, and it was the lowest paying trifecta tonight at like $53. Now I'm not complaining I won $53. However, the one trifecta is the lowest paying in the night, where all the other trifectas were paying out pretty big. But I have hit it once. I have a friend that's really good at horse betting, and does very well at the racetrack. and lives very close to Belmont. Unfortunately, he's made the poor life decision to be a Ranger fan, which I remind him of occasionally. But he is very good at the track, so yes, he is very good at the track. So I do have to go to the track at some point. I have not been to the track in forever. Another friend of mine just recently said we got to go back again, and I think we're going to be hitting up the Meadowlands soon because it's always a fun night. You can go with some
fun.
Go with some money, watch some horses, and maybe make a little bit.
It's like you go to AC and you gamble and it's fun. And let me tell you, you want a good time, I'll take you on a craps table and I'll show you a good time because you've never played
That's
craps
my game.
until you play craps. Dude, I almost cursed. I love craps. Like I'm the type of dude too. Like if you get a hot hand, I'm like high fiving you. I'll give you a nickname.
Oh yeah,
I'm
me
like
too.
Jumping up and down. I get so rowdy. Now we have to go and play craps somewhere.
I'm down. We can go out to PA or something.
Dude, I was so tempted. If it wasn't Sunday night, I would just be like, all right, we're wrapping up the podcast. We got to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely not going tonight. I got an early morning tomorrow. But I'm supposed to teach a friend of mine how to play craps. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, maybe going on a couple of months. We just haven't been able to go there. But yeah, I'm supposed to teach a friend of mine how to play craps.
Yo, it is the best game going. Once you learn it, it's super easy. Like once you get the hang of it, and I know we're
exactly. It looks so
Devil's Hockey
confusing.
over here. We're over here.
Yeah, right. The game looks so confusing at first, and I always tell people it's like no. It's real easy. You just pay attention to this half of the board, and just play. I taught a couple people how to play last year when I went to a casino up in the Poconos, and they loved it. They were on that table long after I left. We'll put it that way.
I get so amped up. I mean, it sucks when you get it when you're rolling cold and the table's cold, and it really sucks. But I'll tell you what, it is the best. It is the best when you get a hot table, and especially if you're the one rolling and you're really hitting on all cylinders and everything is just falling into place, kind of like the Vegas Knights. It is the best. Okay, so Zach Beck has a question.
I have a question. Same question.
I've been looking to get a new jersey. Last one I bought was Eliash. Players always get traded and leaving. Okay, so I need to put in my 2 cents about this because I've always thought about this. So I have a ton of different Devils jerseys. I have like 4 different Eliash jerseys. I have a bunch of different ones. My personal opinion, get a personalized jersey. You will never be traded from your team.
That's true.
So I have a couple of personalized jerseys, and it's like the one guy I know that's never going to get traded from the Devils is myself. So that's my suggestion to you, my friend, is go get a personalized jersey.
Just like this one right behind me.
Yeah, you
personalized
go.
jersey. Yep.
That's
we all the three of us have it. I've got my shorts guy jersey.
Yep.
As well. And Zach, for you, my suggestion, you have Eliash. You can never go wrong with a Brodeur jersey. Any of the numbers that are in the rafters, you can never go wrong with. You can never go wrong with also a Let's Go Devils podcast T-shirt, which we have for sale, which Sam is holding up.
Yeah. Douglas and David both saying Nico. I have a Nico jersey as well. Nico's probably a good bet because you plan on him being there for a while. By all accounts, Taylor Hall. Because
you can never go wrong with a Henrique jersey.
For
that one goal
jersey.
You can never go wrong with a Henrique jersey. I don't care what anyone says. Even though he was traded, it was one of the biggest moments in franchise history. You can absolutely get a Henrique jersey.
Oh, he made the mistake of getting a Parisi jersey. Listen, a lot of people made that mistake, unfortunately. Here's what you do with that Parisi jersey. A Butcher jersey would be nice. Butcher, by the way,
get those nameplates.
Butcher's got one of the coolest names going right now.
Who said they got the? Zach, you can get that nameplate taken off, and get Hall put on.
Yeah,
exactly. Some of the jersey houses will actually take it off and redo the nameplate for you. You just got to send the jersey to them. So there's you can have that altered and you can have that redone. It's obviously gonna, it's gonna cost a little bit, but why have a jersey that's just gonna go to waste? Let's see, Sakura. Yeah, a friend of mine has a Sakura jersey. That works too.
Yeah, Brian Finkel, you got a Sakura jersey. I need to take my Kovalchuk jersey, take the nameplate off of that one, and put either Sakura or Maroon on it.
There you go.
I actually have an Alexander Seamock jersey. Douglas Walker.
I have a Cam Jansen jersey.
I have a Brian Ralston. That's the only one that's like a weird one. I have a Brian Ralston jersey. And Brian Ralston number 12, it's when he came back.
Yeah.
I actually have a Claude Vilgrain jersey.
Yes, you do. Didn't you get that when we had our free jerseys that we got for season tickets?
Yeah. For that year-long lockout, we got free jerseys. And what did I pick? Claude Vilgrain. And I think Jeff, I think he picked number 6, Brad Bombardier, like some random
Brad Bombardier.
Brad Bombardier.
It's funny, like I'm very, but yeah, I would just go with get a personalized one, man. Just get whatever your favorite number is, and who gives a crap if it's like a number that's already out there. Like some people are like, oh, don't. Actually, no, that's not true. Okay, you can't do it with 30, you can't do it with 4, you can't do it with 3. So those are like, there's certain jerseys that you can't like personalize with, like, you can't do 30 with your name on the back. I think that's a little weird.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but what if you wore 30 your entire life?
Then suck it up, Buttercup. You got to find a different number.
I don't know. I would never not wear 29 though.
Yeah, but I mean that's not. 29 is available.
But what if it wasn't?
I don't know. It's just my personal opinion. Oh my god!
Oh well.
I tell you. Either way.
I mean, I do share.
All I was going to play craps.
Yeah, you go. Craps will be it. What do you got, Sam? You want to talk now?
I'm trying to think what jersey I want now. Now we're talking about it.
We should mention the fact that U.S. won bronze in the IIHF, and Kincaid, Gibbons, Butcher, and Coleman representing the Devils over there. So, job well done by the boys.
Which is,
also,
if you think about it, that's great experience in elimination situations for those 3.
And Mueller was lighting it up over there.
Which could, being in that elimination situation for any of our young players can be very good for the future when it comes to playoffs, like being in that pivotal game 7 and stuff like that. So I'm all for these guys going there. I'm happy they went. I'm very happy that they medaled and they got a bronze. But the experience alone in elimination games is great.
Agreed. Yeah. And you get into it's a different type of atmosphere, different type of hockey. Yeah. I was just saying, Mueller played really well for Switzerland, so he took another step in the right direction for his development. I think he's going to be a steal. I really do. I thought he was starting to show some really good signs before he got hurt last year, and it sucked that he got hurt and was out for so long. But I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be an under the radar signing by Shiro that's going to pan out to be, not like a Carlson or somebody like that, but somebody that's some, damn good quality. Andy Green-esque type player.
Yeah, no, and that would be great if he turns into that. And, getting into this experience with Switzerland is going to help him for a comeback for next season. So that's also a big deal, too.
Yeah. All right, boys.
All this is positive, yeah. So it's positive. So we didn't really talk much Devils today, but we talked about sports gambling.
Yeah, we talked. It's all important stuff. Starting to lose my voice, though.
I have to admit, I totally forgot that the game was an afternoon game today, and was checking on.
I was pissed.
Yeah, I was checking on Instagram, and all of a sudden there was the team around the Clarence Campbell Trophy, and I was like, "Whoa, hey, I missed the game. Oh well."
Yeah, dude, I was not happy about it because I was looking forward to listening to the game tonight. I figured it was going to be on at like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
well,
either way, I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Oh
So
my God, I just can't wait for next year. I like, as much as I love the summer, like this season gave me so much hope for what lies ahead for the Devils and the potential. I just hope they don't end up like you looked at Toronto last year, and Toronto, I thought this year we're going to go deeper into the playoffs, but it was like they just kind of they did the same exact thing. It felt like when they gave they
they're
have a
missing
lot of speed.
pieces.
They have they have a lot of speed. They have a lot of youth, but they don't have a lot of grit and toughness. And I think that's one thing that you saw in that series is Mitch Marner got ragdolled in that entire series.
Yeah, well, and that's what a good GM will look at what they've done, and now that they're going to have a new GM, we'll look at what they need to get beyond to get over that hump. For example, let's take a look at Washington. They finally got over that hump that they've been stuck at.
Yeah, but I actually want to see them get into the cup finals.
Sorry, guys.
I just want to see Ovechkin get there, but it's just.
I hit the wrong button. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, Sam.
That's my heart for him for OV.
But in the end, I'm pulling for Vegas. I have to admit, I'm pulling for Vegas.
Unstoppable right now.
Yeah, Sam, you playing with more music over there?
Yeah, this is kind of the closing out music since we're talking about gambling.
Price is Right it's the greatest daytime television game show, and it's what I look forward to every day during my summer, is getting up in time to watch that.
Well, what a podcast. What a podcast, guys. I didn't think we were going to get on air, but we did. We did.
Make it happen.
Against all odds, we're here. Whether people like that or not, that's still up for debate, but we're here.
Yep. Will we be back next week? I think Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals is scheduled on Memorial Day, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I think we'll be live.
We'll discuss that. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure we'll be live.
Yeah, we'll be live Sunday night. Oh, the music stopped. Whoops. All right, play it again.
Producer Sam, anyway, either a longer sound bit, or we have to shut up sooner.
Shut up sooner.
All right.
Well,
take us out, Sam.
We'd like to thank all the listeners for listening, watching. Just remember to catch our podcast on letsgodevils.com. Till next time, next week, we'll try to start on time at 9 p.m. Let's go Devils.